How much bad news are we going to try to fit into one singular NFL season, Dolphins fans? Especially, and this isn't like a normal season either. We finally make the playoffs. The first time since the 2016-17 season. And now we're getting those feelings just like we had that year when we have all these injuries. And we finally make the playoffs, but then our starting quarterback isn't available because I'm getting to this recording late, Dolphins fans. I apologize for that. But as you know, Mike McDaniel had his media availability on Wednesday, and we received more news that we're just cramming into this box that we're calling the 2022 NFL season that has had some highs, had some lows, but mixed in there is a ton of injuries and just a ton of bad news because Mike McDaniel talked about where Tua is in the protocol, and unfortunately, he's still in it. And that means his status for Sunday's wildcard matchup against the Bills is not only just in doubt, but he is out. He is not cleared for on-field activities, ruled out for Sunday. And Mike McDaniel said there's been no setbacks, but rather what he called compounding variables. Now, if I'm speculating as to what compounding variables means, so the doctors that are with these concussion protocols are supposed to factor in previous concussions that a player have had. So that's likely a part of what we're dealing with here. And then Mike McDaniel gets asked the question, and the question was, have we had any conversations about Tua ever playing again? And Mike McDaniel kind of gave it to the reporter in a sense that, like, I know you're just doing your job, but I'm not going to answer that question. So he did a little coach speak around it, really dodged the question with what he's been saying from day one when it comes to this, is we're taking it one day at a time. We're not having those conversations. We're taking it simply one day at a time. And then we heard those words essentially echoed by Jalen Waddle as well. A similar answer when he talked to the media today as well. And now I know, like, what do we do in today's day of age? We speculate. We think about different possible outcomes, and it's hard not to get nervous about this future. I understand why people would be. We're used to coaches talking about injuries in this sense, not necessarily in a concussion sense, but it's like, hey, when's player X going to be back? And it's like, well, you know what? Once he either clears a protocol or has enough rehab done in the knee, or whenever he shows that he can get on the practice field and play, he's going to play. So when our coach is talking about giving an answer to a player not playing just this year, but playing ever again, and then not being able to give out a outright, yes, he'll be back once he's cleared and ready to go. Yeah, I could understand why that would be a bit alarming. However, I do think there's a little bit of a difference here. Our coaches and players seem to be really, really being safe, tiptoeing around this right now to make sure they're not doing or saying the wrong things. And I think a large part of that is because Tua and his concussions this year, you can't help but notice they've been magnified, and they've been magnified because of when they've happened. Two national spotlight primetime games. There was a Thursday night game against the Bengals. Obviously gets that right after the Bills game when everyone was already kind of wondering if he should be playing. So he gets that one, the scary one with the ambulance and everything, the stretcher. And then he gets one on Christmas Day. And granted, there was other games on Christmas Day, but not at the time. So you're getting two national spotlight games where you're the only football that's on TV that day. But remember, keep this in mind too, because while we think about all the negative, we've heard from two people that are close to Tua that haven't said a word about retirement. They were specifically asked, and it was his offseason trainer and it was his brother. And they said, well, those conversations of retirement are not happening right now. It's sounding more so like that's not the issue. The issue is getting the doctors to clear him because they're being extra careful due to suffering multiple concussions in the same season. And I totally understand. And I honestly think that that's the issue that we're having right now, not a question whether or not a long-term longevity of football playing is in question right now. Like I said, we can speculate all we want, and it's scary because we went through the rebuild. This is the quarterback we drafted for the rebuild. We've got all these players on offense around him right now. So it's hard not to speculate, but I'm just saying, do everything you can to just try not to speculate as much right now. So with that being said about Tua Tagovailoa, what do we hear next from Mike McDaniel? Teddy Bridgewater, still working on getting back. And with Teddy still not being able to grip the ball and throw with the velocity and the distance that they would like a starting quarterback to be able to, they're approaching this game with the assumption that it's going to be Skylar Thompson starting at quarterback for your Miami Dolphins, a 7th-round rookie, starting in our first playoff game since the 2016-2017 season. So we're essentially, if we're looking at this, we're looking at going into wild card weekend the same way we went into week 18. That would be Skylar Thompson as your starting quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater as your backup, assuming that the thumb is good enough to go if he were to have to get called in. And then you're likely going to see Mike Glennon once again active as the emergency quarterback. Now I'm going to talk more about those situations and stuff throughout the week as we get into final preview prediction videos. But for the time being, I'll say this. Make sure you check out the video that I dropped earlier today when I talk about the emphasis on the Dolphins' run game and the success that they had with the run game in the Week 15 matchup against the Bills. Because I think you're probably on the same page as me. We're probably going to see a heavy dose of the run game again this week against the Buffalo Bills. With that, and like I said, remember that hypothetical 2022 season box that we keep stuffing bad news in? There's more. So let's talk a little bit of Terron Armstead, because Mike McDaniel wasn't really able to give a concrete yes or no as to whether or not he'd be playing against the Bills. Said he's progressing, but he said there's still a lot of frustration with the injuries. And we'll get probably to what that means here as we go on here. So I'm assuming he's going to be a long shot to play. And while he definitely wants to play, it's the injuries that are holding him back to a point where he just simply can't be as effective if he were to be on the field as what his backup would be. And that's a thing that you have to acknowledge. We all want Terron Armstead on the field. We all know a healthy Terron Armstead gives us the best opportunity at winning. Not breaking any news there. But at a certain point in time, if a guy is down that much, sometimes your backup, believe it or not, would end up giving you a better opportunity of winning that game. But like I said, that brings us a whole new level of terror, considering Brandon Shell also didn't practice today. We're going to talk about a lot of guys that didn't practice today. He's likely doubtful for Sunday as well. So if Terron Armstead is unable to go, and if Brandon Shell is unable to go, that leaves the Dolphins, believe it or not, do the math on this, without their top 5 offensive tackles as we head into a playoff game. Bad news getting stuffed into that box. Terron Armstead, Austin Jackson, Brandon Shell, Eric Fisher, Kendall Lamb. All would be out, leaving Miami with Greg Little and Jaron Christian at tackle, unless they would want to slide Robert Hunt outside the tackle, use Robert Jones at right guard, which we saw them do a little bit last week. However, like I said, we're not done yet. Add Liam Eichenberg into the category of cause for concern, because outside of just the questionable play that we've seen the last 2 weeks since he's been back on the field, guess who also didn't practice today? Our boy Liam. He didn't practice today either. So if he's not able to go, then you're looking at one of Michael Dieter, Lester Cotton, or James Empey that needs to start somewhere in the middle of that offensive line, whether it's at guard or center if you were to move Connor Williams over to one of the guard positions. But man, what a time to be a Dolphins fan. What a time to be a Dolphins fan. Like I said, it's just giving me vibes of that 2016 season. But wrapping up that Terron Armstead talk, he talked some to the media today as well, because I guess if there's a speckle of good Dolphins news today, Terron Armstead was named the 2022 Good Guy Award winner by the media. And I don't know how much good news that is, because they were going to give it to someone regardless, but our warrior, our boy Terron Armstead got it. And he revealed when he was talking to the media there that he opted against having what would have been season-ending surgery on that toe injury following the week 1 game against New England. He said at least one doctor advised him to get that season-ending surgery. And he essentially said, no way, I'm pulling through it. And we've seen him be a warrior through in and 3 out. And now he's not dealing with just the toe. He's got 3 additional injuries on top of that. But this is what I was talking about earlier in the video. He said it's not a pain issue. It's not pain that's holding him out of the lineup, that's keeping him out of practice, that's keeping him out of these games. It's a muscle functionality thing where he's asking his body to do one thing and his body can't, it's failing him. He simply can't do that because of these injuries that he's having. So obviously that takes a toll on somebody, and that's where that frustration that Mike McDaniel talked about comes in as well. So like I said, it's the box full of just unwanted and just terrible news continues to get filled up, but that's what we got more of today. 13 Miami Dolphins players out or limited in practice today. And we're not just talking about backup linebackers or backup linemen or backup secondary guys. We're already on to those guys. We're talking about major players, starting offensive linemen, starting quarterback. And you compare our 13 players that were either out or limited compared to 3 for the Bills. So, hey, tell you what, we've got our work cut out for us this weekend. I think I saw the spread being all the way back up to Bills favored by 13.5. We had it down to about 8.5 or 9 during the Tua speculation time. Not the case anymore. But Dolphins fans, I will be back continuing throughout the week leading up to game. Preview videos, prediction videos. So stay tuned, get subscribed, turn on those notifications. And I'll leave you with this. You probably already have it because you're a Miami Dolphins fan. Find your thick skin because we're not going to get any better news essentially leading up to this game against the Bills. So find that thick skin, wear it with pride, and let's see what we've got in store for this game. Upsets happen in the NFL. Let's not rule it out. Let's not go crazy yet. Just put on your thick skin because it's not getting any easier. But that is what I've got for today, Miami Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.